Welcome back to the channel. Thank y'all for hanging with me on this Monday. So here's my jig that I was catching bass on earlier in the year, and here's the jig that I've been catching bass on recently. So there's a pretty big difference, size, color, the pound test that I throw it on, and how I fish it. So I'm going to go into basically what I'm looking to do this time of year and how that is different from the beginning of spring when the fish are really biting to now the dog days of summer where the fishing is really tough. So earlier in the year, I'm going to go 25-pound test. I'm going to go a big full-size jig, and I'm going to go black and blue because I don't want there to be any mistake about it that my jig is around those fish. Now, as we get further into the year, a black and blue jig might spook the fish. You also may have too many profile strands of rubber on your jig. That's going to spook the fish. And then I want a lot of action because even though the fishing's tough, there's not as much oxygen in the water, so the fish are a little more lethargic, they still have to eat a lot. They're a cold-blooded animal, and they need to eat when their metabolism speeds up in that warmer water. So they do still eat a lot. So that's why, in my opinion, summer fishing, even though it's hot, even though it can be really tough at times, is still one of your better times of the year, opposed to winter or fall, to catch a lot of fish and big fish. You just really have to know what you're doing. So this is what I'm doing. This is finesse. This is a lot of action. And then 15-pound test instead of 25. Because earlier in the year, when I go with 25-pound, I'm just fishing those outside poles. Bass typically need to use wood before they spawn. So the last thing that they're going to do is they're going to get on that wood. They're going to be super aggressive. And they're just going to be right out there in the open, probably even getting a little bit of sunshine before they go in and spawn. So I don't need to skip my jig way back up under there. I'm just fishing those outside poles, and typically you can pattern the fish that time of year. They're going to be on a certain part of the dock, and you just run that, and that's pretty much all you need to do when that's going on. There we go. Oh. Premier Pro model jig. Now, as we get into the dog days of summer where you still have some fish that are out deep, you have some fish that are relating to the thermocline, and you also have some fish that have been pressured and have started to make their transition back shallow, that's a lot of fish in a lot of different areas. So you're not going to have one specific way of catching bass be any stronger than any other specific way. So for that reason, you have to take that with a grain of salt and know that there's not a whole lot of fish here. So when I do get around a place that has some fish, I got to catch every single one. That's why the finesse jig is so good. And I also need to really sit there. I'm not just going to go run 5 docks as fast as I can and go do something else. I need to really make sure that if there is a fish on that dock, that I get my bait to him and get him to bite. Yeah. Well, green pumpkin and orange finesse jig, dirty jigs. That's a nice bass right there. Nice June bass, healthy fish. They don't all live deep. Some do live shallow. So we're gonna get this one back. The biggest key to me with this jig this time of year is sometimes you have to make that home run skip, like way back in there. And a lot of times you're not going to catch anything. A lot of times it's going to be a zero or hero type pattern. But what you are going to run into is a couple of those big key bites that you really can't find anywhere else, because the biggest fish on your lake are going to live 5 feet or less. And that's what you're fishing when you come up and fish the shade this time of year. So 15-pound test, because I just want to get a bite. I'm not so much worried about always landing everything that bites. I need to make the best cast. I need to make the furthest skips, and that's what that lighter line is going to help you do. So this is my jig earlier in the year. It's a pretty big contrast, rather, of what you have this time of year. Lots of action, heavier jigs. And if you're fishing deeper water, let's say you're flipping a hydrilla or deeper bushes, go up to your heavier jigs. Go to your 3/4, your 5/8, your 1 ounce jigs. Go up heavy, because that's going to get you a lot of bites too. All about lighter jigs, the slowest fall earlier in the year when the fishing's really good. And when we get tough, I like, even on my finesse jigs, I'm going up to a 1/2 ounce, 7/16, and even a 3/4 on some of these finesse jigs. So I really want a quick fall, trailers with a ton of action, not a lot of skirt material. That's going to impede the fall. You want that thing going to the bottom as fast as you can, and then just work it. You want kicking and moving in this time of year. Earlier in the year, subtle glide, not a whole lot of action. So if you like to fish a jig in these hotter months, try to make those adjustments. Good luck to you, and I'll see you on the water.